finances.
What would you call the Bank of England downgrading growth forecast from 1.5% to 0.7%, the OBR halving growth estimate? That doesn't speak to a stabilised economy, does it?
Well, you're talking about 1 year rather than looking at future years, and the OBR downgraded growth this year. I think we can all see there's a lot of instability in the world at the moment, but they upgraded growth in every other year of the forecast. And by the end of the forecast, are now predicting the economy will be bigger than they thought just at the time of the budget last year. So, look, we can trade stats and facts and figures. But yesterday in the spending review, what I did was allocate the money that I set out in last year's budget across all government departments.
Break down for us your reaction to that GDP data.
Well, disappointing, but also very volatile. And GDP on a monthly basis does move around quite a lot. But we also know that April was a challenging month. There was a huge uncertainty about tariffs. And one of the things, if you dig into those GDP numbers today, is exports weakening and also production weakening because of that uncertainty in the world around tariffs. Disappointing, but also perhaps not entirely unexpected given the uncertainty that is out there in the world at the moment. And that's why yesterday in the spending review, I really focused on the priorities of the British people, investing in our country's security, in our health, and also in growing the economy, because we do need to get out of this low growth cycle we've been in the last few years. And that's why we put investment into energy, into transport, into affordable homes to turn around the performance of our economy.
So can I ask you this morning, what taxes are going to go up to pay for your spending plans?
No, all of the spending plans I announced yesterday were funded through what I did in the budget last year. I'm not spending a penny more or a penny less than what I set out in the budget last April and then in the spring statement in March. And so what I've done is allocate the money that we had already raised as a government.
There's a lot of commentary over how this is to be paid for, and you're right, what's not to like about increased expenditure in defence and other areas in housing and trams and trains, I understand. But can you tell me, can you say, read my lips, no tax rises in the autumn?
Well, what I did yesterday was allocate the money from last year's budget. But this is important because people are saying that we spent this money yesterday. This is money that I set aside last autumn in the budget. And, you know, and I'm not going to shy away from it, I did increase taxes in the budget last autumn. But that is what paid for the spending I set out yesterday. So everything I set out yesterday has already been funded, has already been costed. Now, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be able to write another 4 years worth of budget.
So you can't say, read my lips, no tax rises this autumn?
Well, I think it would be very risky for a Chancellor to try and write future budgets in a world as uncertain.
I'm only asking for a few months' time, Chancellor.
Yes, but look, the world is very uncertain at the moment. But what I can tell you and your listeners, what I can say to your listeners is I won't have to repeat a budget like the one that I did last year. Last year, I wiped the slate clean after the mismanagement and the broken promises of the previous government. We do now have that path to lower borrowing, to lower debt, which is absolutely crucial to be able to bring that stability back to our economy.
But you have already done a U-turn on at least one thing you did in your budget, because, of course, you had budgeted that you would have £1.5 billion extra because you'd taken away the winter fuel allowance. You then reinstated that earlier this year. That's not costed or funded, is it?
Well, we didn't reinstate it in full, but you're right that more pensioners will receive the winter fuel allowance this year. 75% will receive it. It's still going to be means tested. That's the right thing to do.
A year ago, or the last budget, you did say there wouldn't be further tax hikes. What I'm hearing is you can no longer make that promise.
Well, we've drawn a line under the previous government's mistakes, and public finances are now on a firm footing. There was nothing that I did in the spending review yesterday that requires further taxes, because everything that I set out yesterday was fully costed and fully funded. The world is very uncertain at the moment, so I'm not going to write budgets for the future, but I'll never have to repeat a budget like the one that I set out in October last year.
But my point is, you have made announcements which are not... It's an announcement that has not been funded. So currently your sums don't add up.
Well, that will be paid out in the winter, and before then we will have another forecast from the Office of Budget Responsibility, and we will ensure that that is fully funded. But, you know, we've had 3 trade deals, the substantial investment in the spending review yesterday, and all of those things will be taken account when the next forecast is done, and before any money is paid out.
You've earned another nickname in some quarters today, the Labour Chancellor, as in buy now, pay later. How do you respond to that charge?
I don't accept that at all, because, as I say, all of this money was allocated in the budget.
Yes, but you can't tell me you're not going
year.
to raise taxes in 4 or 5 months' time, Chancellor, I note.
Well, not to pay for anything that I did yesterday, because yesterday
forward,
everything was fully funded. But, you know, the idea that yesterday I've racked up a bill that I'm going to need to pay for in the future, that's just not right. Last year I had to increase taxes, and I've now allocated that money in the spending review on health, security and economic growth. So everything yesterday was fully costed and fully funded from the budget last year.
Is there going to be a time lag between the immediate negative effect of a tax increase and the delayed positive effect of the increased spending that you announced yesterday? When do you think we'll see the positive results of that boost in spending you went through yesterday?
Well, if you look at the last 3 months, which is obviously cuts out some of that volatility. If you look at the last 3 months of economic growth, the economy has grown by 0.7%. We've also had higher wage growth in the first 10 months of this Labour government than you had in the first 10 years of the previous Conservative government. I recognise that not everybody in all parts of the country are feeling that yet, but the 4 interest rate cuts, the increases in real wages, the increase in the national living wage, putting more money in the pockets of the lowest paid in our country, are beginning to have an impact in ensuring that people are better off. And that's why we're going for growth, because we want people all around our country to feel the benefits of growth, to have more money in their pockets to spend on their priorities and the priorities of their family. But at the same time, we do need to make sure that our public services are there for when people need them.
Do you expect councils to be charging 5% a year every year going forward?
5% increases in council tax is something introduced by the last government, and we haven't changed that. It is a cap. Councils don't have to increase council tax by 5%, but under our rules it can't increase without a local referendum by more than 5%. And that's to invest in things like social care, but also, as is normal, to put money into policing. But the government did increase investment in policing yesterday, and the spending power of our police will increase by 2.3% in every year in this Parliament. And that is to really focus on getting those neighbourhood policing teams in our local communities.